Katie's story, An Ordinary Life. Katie was born in 1902. She was the eldest girl in a family of 9 children. She didn't talk much about her early life, but I got a general impression of a busy, lively household, with church, family and music important parts of this life. As the eldest girl, it was assumed that after the minimum amount of education, she would assume the role of unpaid maid to the rest of the family, so she had to leave school at the age of 13. All the others were better educated than she was. She loved music and was a competent pianist and singer, very proud of her elder brother who sang with the Halley Choir. She was a woman of spirit and broke out of the role allotted to her by her family, and got a job as a lift attendant in Lewis's, a prestigious store in Manchester, which had a smart uniform which she liked to wear. She would have liked to have been a nurse, but couldn't realise this ambition. However, all of her 5 daughters trained and had careers in the nursing profession, which made her very proud. She met her husband Frank through church. As the early 20s were a difficult time for people, Frank emigrated to Canada to seek work, which he found on a farm. Katie followed him out in 1929, travelling by liner. The journey was long and horrendous, Katie prostrate with seasickness for all of the time. When she arrived, she was looked after by the Salvation Army, to her eternal gratitude. They married in a small Catholic church and started life in a log cabin, both helping on the farm. 2 babies followed quickly, and they joined in the life of the small community. Sadly, Katie was homesick, and with heavy hearts they returned to England. They had nowhere to live and had to split up and stay with their respective parents. Particularly difficult for Katie with 2 small children and another on the way. Eventually, Frank found work in a quarry in North Derbyshire, with a small primitive cottage nearby. With 3 children, my mother was virtually housebound, and my father, a tall, handsome man, had a few eyes cast his way when he went to church. There were a few disappointed ladies when it was realised he had a wife and 3 children hidden away. Life moved on, and eventually there were 7 children, the youngest being born when the eldest was 20. They were hard times for them all, money never being sufficient for a family of this size, despite Katie's careful management of the family's finances. Despite the hardships, they were a close-knit and happy family, 3 of the girls getting scholarships to grammar schools. During the next 20 years, there was a great deal of sadness for Katie, with the untimely death of 2 of her children, and the sudden death of Frank at the age of 59, just when life was getting easier. She never lost her faith or was bitter, although at times she must have been tempted. In her later years, the closeness of her grandchildren gave her much pleasure. Katie's story is probably typical of many women of her generation. Little emphasis on women's rights in those days. They, like her, coped with great hardship and tragedy, but managed to successfully rear a family and were stalwarts of the community in which they lived, and who were excellent role models for future generations.